Hello everyone, welcome back to the Watercolour workshop. And this week I'm going to be painting this lovely Bluebell Woodland scene. So first of all I've mixed up some yellow green. It looks like yellow but there's a little bit of blue in there. All the paints that I'm using this week are on my palette there on the right hand side. Using this reasonably large sized mop brush to do the background. Any big brush will do, soft big brush. Starting by spattering some of the wet paint onto the dry surface, and I'm adding more water into the middle section of the painting. That'll make sure it's paler than the outer sections because I want the eye to be drawn into the centre of the image. I'm leaving some gaps as well in the sky, not along the edges but in the forest. Those are to represent dappled sunlight. It's not exact, it's not realistic, it's impressionistic. So it looks crude at this stage. Don't worry about that. It'll make sense later on. Okay, so now I've added some blue into my puddle. We've got some green and I'm going to spatter some of that in as well. So as these dry, these colours will blend and merge together and you'll get very soft patches of green, yellow and white, which represent the distant hazy sky in the forest, in the woodland. So the background is still wet and I've got some green mixed up. I've added a bit more blue into my yellow puddle, and because the background is wet, the green is going to merge in to the sky area. You get a nice soft horizon, a few low growing shrubs and brushes and bushes maybe, bit more spatter in the sky, more leaves, mostly where the branches are. The tree drawing I got from a photo of some trees nearby, and the foreground is just made up from my imagination. So now I'm painting some stripes of purple hot lilac bluebell colour, which was the crimson colour, quinacridone rose in my case, and some blue, ultramarine blue, and some white to tone it down, to tint it down. And I'm painting it in stripes to represent the drifts of flowers that you see, and then I'm strengthening it. So I put it on quite pale and then I drop some slightly stronger into it. So you get a nice selection of random purple lilac tones. That bit of card was my tester. I did it at the very beginning before I started the painting. I mixed up the basic colours, so the yellow, the lilac, the green and so on. It's always a good idea to do that if you're not sure what colours you're working with. So I'm now painting the grassy bank in the green, and I'm painting around the purple. And the reason for that is that if I just mix purple and green together, you'll end up with brown. So in order to keep the vibrancy of the bluebell colour, you need to paint around that area with your green paint. Doesn't matter too much if you miss some bits out. So there are some white bits on the forest floor which will slowly disappear as we progress into the painting. You don't have to obsess about filling every single little white gap in. Okay, so I'm using a little spatter there, using my brush and just flicking it onto my finger. You can also flick it onto another brush. You get a little bit more control than just tapping the brush like I'm doing now. And so as you can see, I'm randomly trying to fill in the forest floor. without being too obsessive or neat about it. Painting is now dry, and I'm mixing up some brown, which is red and green. So the green was blue and yellow. If you've got some of that left over, good, add some red. If not, mix up some green, add some red. And I'm painting this first tree, which is the one nearest to the viewer. So this is the one that will have the most detail and the most saturation and the most colour variation. As the trees recede into the distance, they'll get less and less attention, less detail. Okay, I've changed my brush. Decided that the calligraphy brush was a bit too big, and I've gone to a round brush. I think that's a size 7. I'm painting the brown onto it. So there I'm dropping clean water onto the tree trunk. And as you can see, it's causing some back runs, which is what I want this time. Sometimes they are a good thing. They've created a nice little texture. It looks super obvious at the moment, but as we paint over that later, it'll blend in a bit more. Onto the second tree. I've toned down the colour a little bit by adding a little bit dark. So the most colourful subjects are normally in the foreground. And just using a cleanish damp brush there to remove some of the colours from the tree, both trees. The light is going to come from the left. So the left hand side of the tree will be lighter than the right hand side of the tree. And here we are with some Payne's grey, very diluted. I'm dropping it onto the right hand side of the tree, the shadow side of the tree, as the painting of the trees is still wet. That will slowly fade in. So it's not a stark line, it's a soft edge. And having the dark on one side and the light on the other should help to give a more 3D effect. Okay, the final tree, and I've gone with a slightly lighter brown, a reddish brown. And again, drop in some Payne's grey. Less detail on that one, it's slightly further away and it's also smaller. So I'm jumping from one to the other, depending on which one I think needs more attention. Now I've got some brown and I'm trying to paint a thin line. Start at the base, work your way up as your paint runs out. And you get to the top, that's good, it fades away into the sky. Try and make sure that the bottom is wider than the top, but very, very slightly. Couple of basic branches and that's okay. And then I've got back to a kind of yellowy green colour with some very, very thin, very distant trees. And then I'm spattering on some more green. This represents fresh leaves growing on the branches of the trees. This is early spring. And then I'm putting some more grass spatter using the same colour into the foreground. And now I'm darkening my green with some Payne's grey, and I'm going to try and ground a tree. I want to make it look like it's in the ground and not just floating on top of the paint. I'm also putting a shadow. So we've got the light coming from the back of the painting into the left. So we're casting a shadow. I'll strengthen this with some Payne's grey. And I'm going to add this shadow quite keep the edge on the tree soft, try and keep the edge on the woodland floor quite hard. So I'm gradually increasing the amount of the Payne's grey and the thickness of it. So it starts off quite watery wash, and slowly as I put more in, the paint becomes thicker, less dilute. And then I repeat that process on the other trees in the background. And then I even had a shadow in the left-hand corner to break up that patch of light in the bottom left-hand corner. And that's just about it. We're pretty much done. I think I should have used a bigger brush for this section, but never mind. There we are. Bluebell Woodland scene. Hope you enjoyed that, and you join me next time for another watercolour workshop. Thank you for watching.